Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is showing.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good?
Ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today we are going to hit you with another 20-minute episode, scratching the surface. We are going to do 25 things that fill our cup.
Yes, so Cheryl Hunter on episode 64 mentioned an exercise that she does with her clients where they really get very clear on what fills their cup. Because as we know, if life is kind of hectic, there's a lot going on, we're all very distracted sometimes, we can sometimes lose sight of the things that fill us up first, and you cannot water the flowers of the world, proverbially, without a full cup.
Proverbially?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a word.
I think it is. Just say it confidently, and it is.
Yeah.
So we'll go into a little bit of our list. We won't go through the whole 25, but we'll go into ours. That way you guys can have like an idea of what you want to write down, what lights you up, anything. It doesn't have to be anything specific. It doesn't have to be the greatest thing in the world, whatever makes you happy. So we'll go into, you want to do yours first?
Sure, we can start with a couple things. One thing I wanted to say first is why we're doing this. So the reason why it's 25 is because it's going to force us to think of things that we normally wouldn't have. Because I think 25 is kind of a stretch.
Yeah, if you said name 5 things that make you happy, you could probably name 5 pretty easily. And it took us a while to get 25. You got 32 because you're an overachiever.
Always.
But I think that, like you said, it's going to force you to really, really think. And then you're going to have things. I have things on this list that I didn't even
know you would.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point.
That's the whole point.
That's awesome. I have 32, and like Kevin said, I didn't get to some really good ones until towards the tail end.
Yeah.
Like 30, I have video games. 31, I have snowboarding. And then 32, I have basketball. I didn't even think of those until in the 30s.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I'll do a couple of mine.
Okay.
Right? Just so a lot of this has to do with my purpose, and that's why it fills my cup. So podcasting was number one on my list. It's hard not to make it number one when you're coming down to do a podcast on the subject that you're writing down things about. But
absolutely.
Learning, I never was a big fan of learning because most of the time the stuff I learned wasn't applicable to me.
Yeah.
I don't know the Pythagorean theorem, whatever it's called, anymore. I don't remember it.
Pythagoras would be pissed.
Right, I'm sorry, bud. But I do like to learn about psychology. I do like to learn about how your brain works and how to change the way you think and how to rewire your brain. That's my jam. And because I know that's ultimately going to help me change more lives. Deep conversations, telling jokes, making people laugh, helping others. So the reason that we really wanted to do this is because we guys, I keep saying that. My brain. We want you guys to sit down and think about like what makes you happy. What truly fills your cup, because I feel like more often than not, that's an afterthought.
Yeah.
Like come Friday night, you wake up Saturday morning, you're thinking, okay, what do I want to do that I like? And it's like, oh, okay. You really put yourself into a box. And if we're talking about necessity versus desire, most people's necessity is to make money. So that becomes their number one priority, which making money is the key to living for most people. So I understand why that's a thing. But Imagine if you could make money doing something you loved.
Yeah.
That would change your entire life up.
Imagine if you could take a portion of these 25 things that you write down and make money doing those
Right.
things. Right. So that's a huge distinction.
That's always in my head. That's always in my head because people would laugh at me when we talked about this earlier. People would laugh at me when I said, I'm going to make money podcasting. I'm going to box. I'm going to rap for fun. I'm going to box and rap for fun. I'm going to make money podcasting. People would laugh at me and say like, well, that's not a thing. Yeah. It wasn't a thing at the time, but it's becoming a thing. It's becoming my thing. That's what I want to do. And now it's like I do yoga because yoga, even though I don't like doing it before I do it, and I just kind of psych myself out sometimes and go, oh God, it's going to take a half hour and be sweating. Afterwards, I'm always happy I did it. Shout out to Adrian, Yoga with Adrian on YouTube, next level.
Setting an intention to get her on the show at some point.
Yes, we will have her for sure. She's the best. Yep. But I realize that so many people want to do a whole bunch of things that they never get the time to do. And then when you don't get the time to do something, you stop doing it, and then you forget how much you loved it in the first place. And it's like, is there like an opposite of the law of familiarity where like you don't do something for so long that you forget how much it actually filled you up in the first place?
Interesting.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I don't know what to call that.
Because I didn't box for a long... Dude, when I was on the road, I didn't box for four years. Right. And then one day I just started doing it again.
And then you remembered how much you loved
it. Then I remembered how much I loved it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
that's why I'm passionate about this.
This is so cool because a lot of us are winging it.
Yeah.
And that's what the podcast is about, is stop winging it.
Yeah.
You know, become aware of what fills you up, you know, why you do what you do, how your mind works. I want to bring up the habit loop right now because I think a lot of the things we end up doing in life are habits. The habit loop is trigger, behavior, and then reward, and then it rinses and repeats. So I think what Kevin just alluded to, which is really fascinating, is a lot of what we're doing on a day-to-day basis are based on our triggers. And Kevin is about to go live on Snapchat.
Just do a little social media.
But what Kevin just alluded to is basically a lot of times we are doing things that we're triggered to do rather than what we actually proactively want to do. In other words, we're reacting to our environment and doing what our environment is dictating rather than really planning our day ahead of time and filling it with things that we love.
Yeah, I think that I wrote this down. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find this. You know how sometimes I say like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll have this thought?
Yes. Always put a notebook near your bed, by the way.
Well, now we have these. I don't know what I did with it. But I wrote something a long time ago. I wrote this. I don't want a life of necessity. I want a life of preference.
Yes.
And I realized like I think it starts when we're young, man. When we're 16, you got to figure out a way to make money so you can get a car. Everybody needs a car. Yeah. At that point, everybody feels like, oh, I don't want to be the last one to get a car. I need a car.
Yeah. And the freedom that comes with being able to go places.
Then you're 21, 22, 23. You're getting your first real job.
Yep.
Then you want another car because now you have enough money to make the payment on a newer, nicer car.
Yep.
And then as we get into our mid-20s, our late 20s, then it's like...
Now you need a house.
Now you need a house or an apartment or another car. And that's when your necessity becomes your main priority. And you don't get to do the things that light you up as much because you have to work 40 hours a week.
Interesting.
I've been framing this in my mind for a long time.
Dude, it's a progression. Like
yeah.
The frog in the pot of boiling water. You know, it's like if you throw him in a pot that's already boiling, he'll jump right out because he'll get burned. But if you bring it to a boil, he'll slowly get cooked.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you just described.
And then you're spending time at your job with people who are doing the same thing you are.
Yeah, so you think that's life.
So you think that's normal. That is one of the reasons this podcast got started because I realized that wasn't normal for me.
Yeah.
And I realized just because everybody else was saying, well, that's how it is. No, that's not how I want it to be.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how it is now, but that's not how I want it to be. I want to live the life I want to live. So that's why, what is the number one thing on my list? Podcasting. What do I do twice a week at least? Podcast.
Yep.
Weightlifting's on there. I go to the gym almost every day. Not as much as you because I'm not a savage, but rapping. Like all the things... And a lot of the things I was afraid to do.
Yeah.
I was so afraid to record myself rapping.
If anyone wants to wonder why Kevin's so damn happy now, if you go back and listen to the first episode, your tonality is so different now.
Right. And then if you listen to all the Scratching the Surfaces, we talked about this before, it's basically like a breakdown of like, oh, wow, work sucks. Oh, I wish I could get out of my job. Oh, wow, I can't get out of my job?
Oh, and now I'm out of my job.
Now I'm out of my
job. It's because he's doing all the things that do fill him up. And if you picture doing things that fill your cup, you're going to have more to give, and then that's going to be more incentive to refill your cup. And it's this awesome positive cycle. One thing that I have up on your Instagram right now, Kevin, is something you posted 2 days ago. It says, if you are unhappy, change something. Quit your job, move, leave your miserable relationship, stop making excuses. You are in control. I wanted to mention that because if you are the frog in the pot of boiling water who kind of started to live a life of necessity rather than a life of preference, it's time to start taking your life back slowly. It doesn't have to be some drastic change. Maybe you don't have to quit your job right away or anything like that. But at least start moving in the direction of more things you love. And instead of there's 7 days in a week. And if you work 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, and it's something that you really don't like with people that you don't really care to be around, then I would argue that that's not living life to the fullest, because when you get home, you're going to be drained because you didn't fill your cup all day. And then by the time the weekend comes around, you're going to do all the things that you really love, but you only do that, 2 out of 7?
Yeah, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
And if you have a family,
yep.
If you have yard work, if you, like, Joe Rogan, I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast the other day, and he was saying that, he said, I think one of the reasons people are going like crazy is because you put on a suit and tie and you go pretend to be somebody else for 40 hours a week when you're most likely not that person. You're most likely hiding yourself. You're suppressing yourself. You can't roll in there wearing what you want. You don't get to talk about what you want. It's like,
interesting.
Then you get 2 days if you're lucky to do the things that fill you up, and then you got another 5 days of. That's why, like.
Interesting, putting on a persona.
Yeah, if you don't like your job, that's what scares me the most. That scares me almost more than anything, because you spend more time with your job and the people at your work than you do with your family, realistically.
The word persona comes from, I think it comes from back in the day. That used to be the epitome of like putting on a mask. I think they used to call a persona like someone in a play who has a mask on or something like that. I don't know the exact origin of that, but Kevin just made an interesting point. If you are in a lot of rooms where you have to put on a persona, where you can't really fully be yourself, I think that's the opposite of filling your cup. Now that I'm looking through this list, I kind of had a moment where I'm like, all of these things are things where I can be me.
Yeah.
Like fully me.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they better you. Like, yeah. I was talking to somebody at Brendan Burchard's event. I was talking to somebody about, who was I talking to? Summer. Shout out to Summer. I was talking to her and I said, look, fitness is a part of my life. It's part of my brand. When I left my job, one of the things I said was, I'm going to do yoga, I'm going to go to the gym, and I'm going to box. Like, that's part of my life because it's so important to me. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
It makes me so happy.
It's the best.
It's like, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm in an alternate universe where it's like, maybe I'm making far less money than I ever have, but I'm so much happier because I'm only doing the things I want to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing I do that I don't want to do. How about that for happiness? And I understand that not everybody's there. That's fine. I understand that. Matt straps on his work clothes and goes to work like a soldier all the time. And I know it's not easy for him.
Yeah.
I know it sucks. But he's trying to progress out of that.
You and I talked about this not long ago. We said that the way we're living our life right now, we just want to magnify that.
Yes.
I think one of the greatest indicators, and I'm going to get a lot of slack for this, but I don't care, because I think it's true. I want you to start noticing, everyone out there, all the listeners, when you're around certain people, start noticing there's kind of two camps. There's one camp who is consciously, hyper-consciously, designing their own life that they love with things that fill them up. And then there's another camp that isn't and is kind of trying to, on some level, escape it. In other words, and here are the indicators. People who are more excited about their vacations than they are about their actual life. Big indicator.
Yeah.
People who are more excited for the weekends than they are for the week. Big indicator. So just start noticing. The people who aren't super excited about the future are usually the people who are not doing a lot of these 25 things in their everyday life. So why would you want to wake up in the morning to do more of what you don't like? So which camp do you want to be in, really? It comes down to it. I'm not going to lie, and Kevin just said there's nothing that I do that I don't want to do. Okay, so let's make it clear that there are sometimes things that we have to do that suck so hard.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But 80-20. I think most people are spending 80% of their time and energy doing things they don't want to do. Laundry, housework, going to a job that maybe they don't love that much. Different things like that. And then spending 20% of their time on the weekends and, weeknights doing what they really want. I think we flipped that on its head. But I think it's far more challenging, if I'm honest. The entrepreneurial road is more challenging.
For sure.
And you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You can get a job that you love.
Right.
You can totally get a job you love. I think that's the first step. Oprah Winfrey says, do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do. When you get to a place that you and I are in, Kevin, where we just want more of what we're already doing, that's when you're succeeding. And, dude, it took us years to get here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How long did I work in corporate America?
Yeah.
Just wondering why I was unhappy.
The stuff, and so for those who, like Alan just said, there are things that I have to do that I don't want to do. But a lot of them...
20%.
Yeah, but most of them are self-imposed.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I traded in the 80% of not wanting to do. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to travel to New Jersey. I didn't want to crawl through a dusty attic. I didn't want to work outside when it was freezing. I didn't want to miss my entire weekends, miss my life. I didn't want to do any of that. So I'll gladly trade in that for the 20% of having to drive 5 hours to podcast or drive 5 hours to podcast in Florida or take a flight that I'm terrified. Like most of my things that I don't want to do are self-imposed. Maybe I don't want to work on the computer for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
But I told myself, this is what it's going to take.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to take that. So there definitely are things I have to do that I don't want to do. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of them are for my better future, for my brighter future.
Yeah.
And I realize that. When you sign your name on your future saying, I will be the only person in charge of my fucking where I end up, my outcome. I'm fired up right now.
Yes.
Oh, this is like an old scratching the surface for me. When you sign your name on that line, you sign there and you say, I, Kevin Paul Mary, am going to do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to get this hyper-conscious podcast to change millions of lives. Everything else is just circumstance. It's just circumstance because I signed up for this.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad for myself when I have a bad day. I don't expect anybody to feel bad for me. I want you guys to know that I have bad days. Alan has bad days.
Oh, yeah. Several lately.
Right? But a lot of them are self-imposed. I don't have a boss telling me I'm not doing good enough. It's because I don't feel like I'm doing good enough.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap this. Of course, this episode just went off the fucking rails. But I think the reason why we want you to realize what makes you happy is because I don't think people are as happy as they deserve to be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me because I was there a year ago. I would have one day, maybe one day to do the things I wanted to do. And I was so tired that I would just sit in front of the TV all day.
Yeah.
And I know that wasn't fulfilling.
And this is why Kevin's so fired up about it.
This is so close to home for me, guys.
Yeah.
Like, that's why Alan could leave this room right now and I would just keep going. It's just, the thing is, I know what you're feeling. It's so familiar to me, the hopelessness, the feeling trapped, the feeling stuck, the feeling like you have no way out. I know. I was sitting on the edge of the bed in New Jersey, thinking to myself, maybe dying is the best way out. Like, I know what that feels like. And that's why this fires me up, because I want you guys to know that you can literally do whatever you're willing to work for. Not whatever you want, whatever you're willing to work for.
That's the key.
That is the key. And you're willing to go to a job, drive an hour, sit in traffic, put on clothes you don't want to wear, talk to people you don't want to talk to, and then you get home and you're not willing to do the things that make you happy. I want to somehow figure out for you guys how to switch that. And I know it might sound fucking crazy because I am a little crazy, but I think in the best ways, and that's what I want for you guys.
Yeah, you got to be a little crazy to do something remarkable and live an extraordinary life.
Right?
So I want to bring this back to habits.
Yeah, please do.
90% of our day, the science shows like 90% of our day is just habit, even if you're going to a job. So the 3 columns exercise, I don't know if I've ever shared this with the listeners, but it's super simple. Basically, you take 3 columns, you write bad habits, you write good habits, and then you write wish habits. To define this for everyone, bad habits are any habits that do not bring you closer to your goals and dreams and do not fill you up. Good habits are basically the opposite. Anything that brings you closer to your goals and dreams and fills you up, fills your cup. Wish habits are habits that you wish you had because you know in your heart on some level that this would help you get closer to your goals and dreams and would make you a better person and would fill you up. Take one habit from column 3, the wish habits, and replace a bad habit. If you lock that in for 21 days, you can do 17 habits a year. That's fucking crazy. If you did every 21 days, you took one habit out of the bad column and got rid of it, and then added yoga or whatever it is, right? You can have 17 new habits in 1 year. You would be living a completely different life. Like, that's what this is. Be proactive about, like, a lot of us are living our lives unconsciously, where we're just doing things that used to fill us up that no longer are relevant.
Yeah.
Booze, for me, for the longest fucking time, was a bad habit because it no longer was a priority for me, but I was still doing it out of habit. That brain groove was so damn thick because I spent so many years partying. Now it doesn't fill my cup, and it took me a long time to realize, like, this is no longer serving my happiness. This is no longer filling my cup. This is emptying it. So the more I fill my cup with booze, the less I have to give to the world. And when I made that correlation, I was like, fuck, I gotta get rid of this. So that's what this episode is. It's becoming more aware of what today you are trying to do more of, and then just starting to slowly add those things to your life so that eventually you come to this place where you're like, I just want to live more of this.
Well, so we're at 20 minutes. We're going to do 5 more minutes because whatever. We have to. We have to do it because this is a spot for both Alan and I. Like, I know what it feels like to want to do the things. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew the things that I wanted to box. And I said that. I kept saying, I just want to be able to box. I just want to be able to podcast during the week and not have to stack all the podcasts on the weekend and then maybe miss out on potential guests because of it. Yeah. The things and the only reason I was able to do what I'm doing now is because I was so aware of what I wanted to do. And I knew I didn't want to do what I was doing, but I did know what I wanted to do in the future. And that's why, like, guys, write down anything. If you like animals, if your thing is animals, if you have a dog and that is the happiest point in your day when you get to see your dog, maybe you should work with animals. You just never thought about it because you didn't know it was an option.
That's a great analogy.
There was from the Bumble Crew.
Yeah.
Andrew and I's friends down in Rhode Island and up in Vermont.
The Bumble Crew.
The Bumble Crew, they're called. One of them wanted to do that.
Yeah.
She loves animals more than anything. And
she was saying that at the T Swift concert.
And my thing was, cool, start a dog shelter. Eventually.
Yeah. She was talking about that at that conversation.
Yeah.
So you planted a seed.
We stayed up until 4 o'clock in the morning the first time we met.
Talking about goals and dreams. Love it.
And I understand it can be overwhelming to, like, for me to say, oh, quit your job, dump your boyfriend if it's not making you happy. That's just because I get so fired up about it and I want what's best for you. Like, that's it. And I just... Man, I always go back to this, and I think about this all the time, man. This is like one of the things that changed my life. If an alien landed on this planet and was watching us, like watching us, get up in the morning, wipe the sleepies out of our eyes, shower, make a 2-minute breakfast, get in the car, and drive an hour and a half to a job that we cannot, literally we're counting down the moments until we get out of there. That alien would be like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Yeah, right.
Like, why are you doing that? And it's normal.
It's just normal. The law of familiarity.
It's just normal now.
Yeah, society has made it normal.
Sometimes the things that are normal aren't easy, and they aren't necessarily what's best for you. And I want you guys to literally do what's best for you. Yep. If you're going to a job that you love, hell yes. Hell yes. Good for you.
Yep.
Good for you.
Figure out how to do more of that and do it better.
Right.
And get promoted.
Yeah.
And add more value.
Yeah.
And increase your own value. Make sure the right people see that value.
But if you're not happy with your job, relationship, house, body, anything.
Yeah.
Then just admit to yourself, okay, I'm not as happy as I could be. What would it take for me to be happier? Would I be doing more of this? Okay. Then think about that for a week and then realize, how could I do more of this? Think about that for a week. Could I make money doing this? Think about that for a week. And then just these thoughts will just percolate in your brain and they'll become normal.
They'll translate to actions, which will translate to change.
Oh, I just get fired up.
I love it, man.
I get fired up.
Jim Rohn quote, he says, we have the power of choice. If you don't like something, change it. You're not a tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to stay put.
But a lot of people have built in these branches of necessity, and they have become that tree. And they're afraid to, sometimes you got to cut those branches. You got to take a risk. A lot of this is about taking risk.
Yeah.
And I understand it's not as simple as, maybe you have a mortgage, maybe you have a car payment, maybe you have children. But if you're not happy, then that's not going to change by accident.
Yeah, unless you proactively seek to change
it. And that's what I want.
Even in increments, small increments.
Yeah.
I feel obligated to tell the listeners something right now because I was recently landscaping for money.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a professional speaker, natural fitness coach. Like, I've had to do things that I never thought I'd have to do to stay afloat. Just so all the listeners know, I worked in corporate America. I made nearly $200,000 a year in 2014, and I quit. And I chased my dreams, and it has not been easy, and it won't be easy for you either. But it's definitely worth it. I'm definitely far happier now, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I was literally landscaping for 3 hours, sweating my nuts off in the hot sun for an extra $100 because I'm willing to do whatever it takes to succeed, and I will not stop. And did that suck? Kinda. You know, I'm sitting here with a master's degree from one of the top technical institutions in the world, and I'm landscaping. But I don't care because I'm humble enough to say I don't care. Whatever it fucking takes, I'll do it.
And there's a reason you're doing it. There was a quote, I don't know who said it, I'm going to butcher it, we're going to end here in a minute, but like, it's not that you're not motivated, you just don't like what you're doing. You don't like what you're doing.
Yeah, or you're not good at it.
Or you're not good at it.
Or
yeah,
both.
I mean, but again, how do you get good at something you don't like?
Yeah,
how
interesting.
How good are you at smashing your head against the wall? Probably not very good. Why would you ever get good at it? It sucks.
Yes.
You don't want to be good at that. Like, there's certain things that I can understand why people don't like.
I was watching a Steve Jobs YouTube video yesterday. He said, the most successful people in the world, you always find like that at the tail end of their careers, they loved what they did.
Yeah.
Because why? You'd have to be nuts to go through all the tough times if you didn't love it.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think the takeaway is write down a list of the things that you get joy from. Write down a list of things that you would like to do more of, that you think would bring more happiness into your life.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to write them down, even if it sounds crazy.
Yeah, write them down.
Just write them down.
I wrote down Harry Potter movies,
right?
Lord of the Rings, Jurassic Park, Disney movies.
I wrote down a long time ago, I set the intention. I told you I want to step in the ring and box.
Yes.
And we were lucky enough to podcast with the owner of the top Muay Thai gym in Worcester. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, exactly.
Why was that even on our radar?
That was one of your favorite
And that was one of my favorite episodes because
you loved
that. He held pads for us after. Like,
yeah.
The reason that we got to do that is because I wrote that down and said I want to do more of it. That's it. That's the only reason why.
And that was like 2 weeks prior to that.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's hammer real quick some things just to give them ideas.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's do 10 each or something.
I got to open my phone. Hammer it quick, though, 'cause we're already over, and I don't want them to get mad at us.
Exactly. Power naps, podcasting, weightlifting, reading books, writing, deep conversations, helping others, passionate sex, snuggles, hugs, and kisses, thought and emotional provoking movies, delicious food, visualizing the future, walks in nature, Harry Potter movies, time with family, speaking, public speaking, reminiscing with old friends, jacuzzi, deep tissue massages, going to the movies. I can keep going.
All right, that's enough.
Yeah, that's enough.
So Alan stole most of mine because my list was done before his. But I put adrenaline down. I like doing things that get me adrenaline.
The zone.
It's been a long time since I've done something that like truly, truly scared me, other than the plane and the entire trip. But like sparring, that's like adrenaline. You're gonna get hit in the face repeatedly. Your body's like, oh, this is something. But so that's the main takeaway, guys. If you're living a life of priority, of necessity, you're just doing the things that you have to do. Think to yourself, what are the things that I like to do, that I like to do more of, that I know would have a positive impact on my life and my happiness? Write that shit down, and then just try to start doing it a little bit more.
Yep.
And then see what happens.
Fill your cup.
Fill your cup.
And we just
scratch the surface. Bye.
Talk to you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed the last episode of Scratching the Surface. Up next, we podcasted with Mr. Anthony Trucks. He is a former NFL linebacker, an author, life coach, motivational speaker, American Ninja Warrior, and we were lucky enough to see him speak live at Brenda Bouchard's event.
Yes, I met Anthony backstage at Brendan's event. He was very kind. We also spoke a bit on Facebook back and forth the other night when I was having some trouble after the event adjusting to the new changes. Anthony just went really real with us on the podcast, talked about his story, and some of the adversities he's faced are just honestly unfathomable. This is any excuses that any of us have that we use on a day-to-day basis to not become more are going to be gone after this episode.
Yeah, he was super vulnerable, and you guys will take away so much knowledge and so many lessons from him, and we hope you enjoy.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyper-conscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.